All right, we're back on this 2003 Mercedes G500, and I'm showing you how there's almost no refrigerant in the system. It's mostly gas, not liquid. Take a look at it there for the guys who like to look at sight glasses. And when using, here's the Conroy. This is a little handheld UV light. There's nothing in there that's a dye, so there's nothing I'm looking at. I could not pick up anything using the leak detector. I see a little tiny bit of evidence of an oil stain that is negligible down at the suction and liquid line where it enters the header there. There's no history of how long ago or when this was done. I'm still trying to find the source of a little oil residue down on the condenser side, if there's a power steering, a transmission leak, or anything else that could have made that oil stain. I haven't recovered it yet, so I don't know how much refrigerant is in the system. The system itself takes, 1,050 grams. That is the total fill for the system. It's been running for 5 minutes now. And let's see, our superheat is at 67 degrees. Here's our actual temperature of our suction line right now, and our suction line is coming right out of the evaporator, right from the dash, and I'm only like 2 or 3 inches of metal tubing, and I'm taking the temperature of the evaporator coming right out of the dash, and it is at 89 degrees, so there's nothing going on there. We're probably have about 58 degrees. I haven't hooked up my temperature sensors in the dash yet to take the dash outlet, but by using my hand, I'm going to say it's about 58 degrees coming out of the dash. So we actually have cooling going on there. We just don't have a lot. And as you pay attention, okay, here we got 23 psi on the low side, 129 on side. Look at our subcooling. We're 3 degrees subcooling, and that is taken from the liquid line right here, coming out of the condenser, then it goes into the receiver, and then it comes out of the receiver, and then this long line feeds and goes to the expansion valve. So it takes this long trip, it goes all the way along there, it makes that little bend right there, it comes all the way along the back, and it comes forward and down and feeds right down inside there. So, and remember, with the electronic leak detector, even though I seen oil, I picked up nothing. Even though I had a little oil residue here on the condenser, I could not pick up anything, and there was no dye. So here's something we're gonna do. We're gonna inject oil, and I get asked, what types of oil do I use, a dye do I use? This is AC Extends. I either use AC Extends or Tracer dye products. Tracer line products. Those are the two I've used. Tracer line I've used for 40 years, so I come to highly recommend them, and they're very reliable. But for the newest kid on the block, I started using this one because Tracer line is becoming hard to find. A lot of my distributors don't carry it anymore. I guess they want to make higher profits and sell something they make more profits from, more advertising nowadays. I don't know what the deal on that is. So let's count how many seconds it's taking. I'm going to inject some dye on the suction line. And remember the method for you guys who want to know the flow of refrigerant. I have to go from this suction line, which is halfway between the evaporator outlet and the compressor inlet. So I'm going to inject dye right here. At the same time, we're going to count how many seconds with the compressor running does it take for the dye. When I do the first squirt, I put about 5 milliliters in. Just 5 milliliters, which is roughly a teaspoon. I'll squirt it into the suction line. It'll travel to the compressor. It'll go through the cylinders of the compressor, and it'll get mixed with the oil and refrigerant in the compressor. Then it'll get compressed, and it'll get ejected out of the discharge port of the compressor. It'll come from the hose coming out of the compressor. It'll go into the top of the condenser right here. It'll make a few passes going down through the condenser. It'll go out of the condenser through the bottom. It'll come out to this line right here. It'll go into the top of the receiver dryer. Now, what we see here in this glass is not the gas coming from the condenser. This is the gas leaving the receiver dryer. This is actually a straw to a window that goes all the way down to the very bottom. Here's, if we said this metal was the bottom of the receiver dryer, there's a straw that goes from the window that we're looking at, and the straw goes all the way down and just barely touches the bottom of the receiver dryer so it could pick up liquid. But because there's so little refrigerant in the system, it's picking up vapor right now with very little oil. And so we're gonna see that whole path and travel, and we're gonna count how many seconds. So let me get the dye. Guys always ask me to do this. They actually want me to show them, and they want to see it happen. They don't want me to tell them. They actually want me to show them. How do you do that? So it's really simple. So the low side is at roughly 21, 22 PSI. So it's very easy to overcome the pressure. You're only going to be squirting in 5 milliliters of this dye. It's very, very concentrated. You need very little. So I just put on my hand, and I'm just going to move it. It's only going to move a little bit. And the plunger, you see that little line there? It'll just move one line, and that's 5 milliliters. It's just ever so small because this dye is so concentrated. So we're going to come over here, and I'm going to get my little Conroy light. I'm going to use the little guy here because I can kind of hold it. And see, I'm going to try to balance it. What I'm doing is I'm trying to balance it, hold my camera in my hand, balance the light at the same time so you guys can see it, and we can count the seconds. So I'm going to tell you when. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. There, I just injected the dye. Count the seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'm starting to see something. 15, 16. There we go. Do you see the dye starting to form? There it goes. About 14 seconds, and it's getting brighter as the second goes. So about 14 seconds. So in this system, on this car, with this compressor being low on refrigerant, it took roughly 14 seconds for me to inject 5 milliliters of UV tracer dye into the suction line to do that path of the compressor, the whole condenser, and then come out of the condenser into the bottom of the receiver dryer. It has to go, actually it goes into the top of the receiver dryer. It has to go through the filter screen. It has to go through the layer of BB desiccant material. Then it has to come out the other filter pad and screen, drop to the bottom and come out to this pickup tube, up the pickup tube, and then hit the glass. So that took 14 seconds. So that's how fast it moves. All right, so let's jump on to the next one. I'm gonna perform a recovery on this system, and we're gonna measure how much gas comes out of it. I still don't find a leak that I can condemn, but other than the little residue down here on a condenser and over there on the O-rings at a pipe that are negligible. All right, let's go to the next video.